Welcome to the Investor Empowerment Series radio show, empowering your real estate investing with techniques, opportunities, and information, minus the BS and sales pitches. Now, please welcome the host of the Investor Empowerment Series, Joe Mueller, from the Tough as Nails Investment Syndicate. Joe Mueller.
Welcome back to the Investor Empowerment Series radio show. This is episode number 33. Run your business like a business. And I'm going to say part one, because I'm sure someday there's going to be a part two. So I was at this meetup the other night in Elmhurst, Illinois, and it was hosted by Andrew Holmes. He's a big investor in our area. He was actually on the podcast. Episode number 12, I believe, was with Andrew Holmes. He's got like 160, 70 properties. I mean, amazing guy. Runs a great meetup in our Chicagoland area. I was speaking on a panel called the Collective Flipping Panel, and it was myself and three other investors that Andrew deemed must have been experienced enough to speak in front of his group of about 100 people that showed up for this event. And it was basically about flipping properties, talking about rehabs, repairs, dealing with contractors, all types of stuff regarding flipping. One thing that Andrew had mentioned prior to the meeting starting was the fact that most investors don't run their business like a business. And those are my words. They don't have the business mindset. And I hope that doesn't offend anybody. But let's do the same thing with real estate brokers. The average real estate broker completes like 2.3 transactions per year, or something to that effect. The average broker makes less than $25,000 a year. It's only really the top 10% that can really succeed and make it a business, make a living, and that's because they make it a business. I think real estate investing goes the same way. So today we're going to talk about, on our part one of this episode, what you can do to create a successful plan for your business, whether it's on a daily, monthly, annual basis, and I hope it offers some type of a little bit more information on what ideas that I can give to you that hopefully help you succeed. So the first thing I want to talk about, get your pen and paper out too. I put a little bit of work into this. Normally I don't take notes, but I pre-planned this podcast a little bit. That's definitely worth penning some ideas down. Number one, I would say, just like any business or any person who wants to succeed at anything, document your goals. Write down on paper what you plan to achieve, whether it be on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, annual basis. I mean, maybe you start with an annual goal. I think you can break down those goals into like financial, health, personal enrichment, education, family, and then business. I think there should be a difference between financial and business. Because financial could be pertained to retirement planning, or which also could be related to business. Monthly income, for example, that was one of the goals I set in our December meetup. I announced what my annual goal for cash flow was for 2017 I wanted to achieve, the next tier in my business. Maybe that's the same thing. But I think that the business goal should be a little bit different because it could be relating to the operation of your business, the strategy behind it, funding or financing your business, things like that, and how it actually performs the day-to-day regardless of what your role in that business is. And because ultimately the goal is when you have a business, you want to be working on your business, not in your business, right? I'm sure we've all heard that. And when I say that, I mean, for those of you who haven't, you don't want to be tied to a desk necessarily where your business fails if you don't do something every day. For example, I mean, I've been there. You have to start somewhere, but you create that succession planning so a year from now or 5 years from now, whatever your business is, and obviously we're talking about real estate investing, but whatever your business is, you're able to take a vacation, you're able to step away, you're able to limit the amount of time you're spending on keeping the oil in the cogs to make sure that it keeps functioning. I think that's a great piece of advice. And second to that is that takes help, right? That takes delegation a lot of the time. But the way technology is and with where technology is going, it creates a lot of opportunities for even a small investor just getting started to minimize the amount of time they spend in their business, and they can continue to work on their business. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. So we kind of laid out some of the concepts you can put together for your annual goals, and then you can begin to break those down further, whether it be health or personal enrichment. When I say that, read a book every month. Read a new book every month. I don't care what the topic is, or I don't know how fast you read. Buy Audible on your phone. Listen to books while you're driving in the car. I tell you what, I probably get more benefit from driving around, looking at properties, and listening to podcasts than anything else I do besides physically sitting down and taking an hour to read for a day, or spending a part of my weekend sitting down and diving into a book. And that's the stuff I really enjoy doing. Those are the things that I like to do. But when you're driving around, doing something you have to do, enrich yourself in that process. Subscribe to this podcast. There's a good goal. I like that one. And give me a review. That's a good goal for you as well. I had like 40 reviews at one point, and then I switched to this new platform that helps syndicate out my podcast to new locations so I can get some more listeners, and now there's no reviews on there, and I really haven't asked for them. So if you're listening to this podcast, I know there's a bunch of you out there because you email me, you call me, you text me, you're telling me how you enjoy some of the material that I put out there. Please take 3 minutes and go on iTunes and Stitcher. You can do it on YouTube. Just give me a review. Google Plus, I'm on all those. Investor Empowerment Radio, Investor Empowerment Series Radio Show, IES Radio, any of those things in the Google machine should bring me up. Okay. All right. So you've set some goals. Let's say one of them is to increase your business and to build your business. And again, if you're a broker listening to this, listen. I think the next part I'm going to dive into is how you structure your day to accomplish whatever those goals are. When you're talking about business, and I'm open for suggestion, so feel free to contact me if you have some better ideas, please. Growing your contact database, whether it's buyers lists for your wholesales, sellers lists for the properties you're trying to acquire, contractors, your bank contacts. I mean, how are you going to fund things? Businesses need to be funded. It probably is going to start from your own checking account with $500 or whatever. But at some point, you're going to need funding to continue to grow your business. And that doesn't mean you're not making money. That just means to increase the capacity of what you're doing and really charge up your business model or your plan. You're going to need some funding. Setting goals for the number of properties you want to be involved in on an annual basis. 5, 10, 20. There's guys out there that are doing 30 flips a year. Those are all that all starts somewhere, right? Initially, you're going to have this goal of, I just want to do a flip. And once you maybe do your first one and you're addicted because the chemicals are flowing in your brain, giving you that little happy feel when you get a new property, then it's become 2 to 3 a year, whether you're a weekend warrior working full time still or not. At some point, you can drive that to a higher number. I realize the market is tight right now. We're February 2017, but that's not going to continue forever. Things are going to change, and you have to be sustainable in order to be prepared for that. And that's part of this podcast is, you have to run like a business, and that means making a plan. And that's what I'm going to try to help you do today. So, technology, that's another aspect. I touched on it earlier about delegation. Using Fiverr.com is a great option to get things done for you. The artwork on this podcast was designed by a guy on Fiverr.com for $5. You can manipulate that a little bit. You can change it. If you don't like it, it's only $5, people. Do it again. Have them start all over. Pick somebody else. Get a couple different opinions of what that artwork should look like. I mean, you can suggest things. You can send in photos. You can put your picture on there, whatever. And again, we're talking about a podcast artwork, but it goes to anything. When you start off a business, you have to have a card. You have to start branding. You have to have a name, right? I don't want to get too much into like the corporate structure, because that's something we could beat a dead horse with till, the end of the world. But at some point, whether you're starting off as a sole proprietor, which is just you, yourself, and I, or you're gonna need to move that business to an entity, and that's where corporate structuring comes in. Speak to your accountant, your attorney, whatever you got going on in your world. I am not the best person to give advice on that. I know a lot about LLCs and corporations, and I know how to set them up. But I would recommend you use a professional to do something like that. And once you've got that, you've become a real business at that point. You need branding. You need a name. You need some type of artwork. You need your business card design. Write this down, Zazzle Zazzle.com, Zazzle, and I'm not being, this is not a true endorsement. I'm not getting any type of fee for this, but I've used Zazzle for the last few years on my business cards. I've been very happy with them. You can design the card right on the website. You can then alter the style, the shape, the color, the paper, the thickness. They even have cards you've made out of metal. I mean, it's pretty impressive. I don't know if anybody really wants a metal card, but hey, maybe you do. That's cool, whatever. So try that out, and in order to do that, you're going to want some type of logo, branding, artwork. All right, let's move on to the next section, if there is such a thing. I'm just kind of rambling off my notes here. Running your day. So once you've got a business, you've got a structure, you've got an entity, you've got some branding out there, now you can start with the next step, which is marketing your business. In order to market yourself, because really if it's just you or you and a few people or partners, whatever, you need to plan your day like it's a business. I get it. If you're working a 9-to-5 grind still, this may not necessarily make sense at first, but you still need to make time to grow that business. So when you get home at night, whether it's the first hour of or maybe you work third shift, whatever, the first hour of your day or the first couple hours, as much time as you can put into it, schedule time for your business on a daily basis. This is actually one of the biggest failures of real estate brokers in the country. And this is not information that I've personally put together. This is just statistically what I've read and the seminars I've attended, the education I've put myself through, is brokers don't run themselves like an actual business. They see themselves as an individual who is out there trying to get listings and find buyers to sell houses. Yay! Okay, great. But in order to do that and make it sustainable, you have to create a plan. You have to run it like a business. You have to have marketing. So my suggestion, if you are a full-time employee, you need to find time, whether it's on Saturdays, Sundays, one day a week. When I first got into real estate, I distinctly remember spending a lot of time on the weekends getting my properties, or whatever I was working on, I should say property, because it was just one at a time back then, getting things in order for for the next week that was about to come, whether it be buying materials and supplies or, getting my contractors in line to finish off my flip. That's how my weekends were spent. I have worked normal jobs before, and I continue to build my own time management structure. And I mean, right now I try to front load my day. That's what I would recommend for anybody listening, but it all depends on when your peak performance time is. And I don't know if that's a such thing, but my interpretation of that means there's different people are morning people. Some people are evening people. Some people are night owls. I'm a morning person. I like to front load my day because that's when I am the most productive and able to get the most accomplished. And that's when I like to do the most work. As the day weans on, I'm thinking more about getting home. I'm thinking about my kids. I'm thinking about dinner. I'm thinking about whatever plans, or maybe I'm planning for my next event, meetup, whatever, because that's what I enjoy doing. That's how I like structuring my day. So from the first hour of your day, I think that should be spent on your personal enrichment and or your health, whether it be reading a book or making a plan for what you're going to do that day, which could also be done the night before or the end of the day of the previous day. Read a book, work out, go to the gym, meditate, do yoga, whatever your thing is. When you get out of bed in the morning or when you start your work day, start it off on a positive note. I recently grabbed the book, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. It's been out for a couple years. It's got a lot of great reviews. He's got a couple books out there. And it's essentially the same concept, so I'm not necessarily stealing, but I'm recommending. If you like that concept, I found the book to be pretty easy to read, and the concept isn't mind-blowing, but, give yourself a schedule as a business owner, as a investor, as a broker, whoever you are, so you can accomplish what you want to accomplish that day. So if the night before you like to write down all the things you want to get done the next day, or you look in your calendar, your schedule, you set things up that way, that's fine. But I would definitely put an hour in there for self-enrichment, personal enrichment, increasing your health, making your meals, whatever it is for that day or that week, if that's how you want to run your life. I would say that the next hour should be spent accomplishing something that benefits your business. If it's now 9 a.m. and the kids are off at school and you've got yourself a little bite to eat or a cup of coffee and a piece of toast, spend the first hour accomplishing something to keep that day moving in the right direction. I'd like to say look at some properties, do some drive-bys of some properties. Maybe the next hour after that, 10 to 11 a.m., for example, meet with somebody for coffee or breakfast or something. Set up an appointment. Set up a phone call for a potential business partner. That could be anywhere from an attorney, a property manager, maybe a mentor, banking or financial, hard money, private money type guy if you're in real estate. Maybe it's with your CPA or, however it is, wholesaler. Start engaging people and put that on the calendar. It doesn't have to be every single day of the week. It doesn't have to be every single, Monday through Friday day of the week, but put that in your brain as at some hour of your day, you should be working towards continuing to meet and engage these people that are going to help, grow your business through partnering. They're going to be the power team of your business. I know I'm dancing around a lot on that topic, but create your people, your team, your partnerships, your relationships that are also in the business so you can succeed for the next step or for the next property or for the next investment. Here's a good one, podcasting, right? I set aside about an hour every week to do a podcast. I'd love to set aside some more time to really focus on it and make these better. But right now, that's about all I can afford to do based on my current schedule. But I put it in that time block and I sit down and I have a plan and I do a podcast, whether it's an interview or sitting here basically talking to myself. So you've met with somebody for coffee at 10, you finish up at 11. What do you do next? Keep that day moving. Well, let's say 11 to 12 p.m. You're not going to go run to the laundry, do your laundry. You're not going to run to the grocery store to pick up dinner. I mean, maybe you are, but this is the fault of where a lot of self-employed or self-directed individuals fail, is because they get one or two little things done in the day and they feel like they've accomplished something, and then they go on and do their own personal errands. I know for a fact that's the average day of a real estate broker, is stand up running all these personal errands and not really doing anything that makes any money. Don't do that. Continue down that path of having that daily plan. So now it's 11 a.m. Go to your office, go to your library, go somewhere where you can think and put together or work on your marketing plan. If you're an investor out there, which is what I'm going to start talking about right now, you need, or maybe a broker, there's dozens of ways, even for free, to complete marketing, whether it's for sellers or buyers for your list, or brokers that you want to work with, engaging more people. That could be making your own bandit signs, ordering bandit signs, installing bandit signs. If you don't know what a bandit sign is, that's the yellow or white or red or who knows what color they put out there nowadays. Typically smaller, like 12-inch by 18-inch type signs or 24 by 18-inch signs that you see nailed to telephone poles or in the ground around different intersections. Those are typically investors, typically wholesalers, looking to drive in property inventory. People do call off those signs. Otherwise, nobody would do it. Driving for dollars, that's an option. If you don't know what driving for dollars is, I've talked about it in the first couple podcasts of my radio show here. Drive around different neighborhoods. Maybe it's a new neighborhood a day or a week, and look for properties that appear to be in distress. Long grass, newspapers piled up, boarded up windows, signs on them. Could be REO, could be bank-owned stuff, could be just an individual. Actually, I just got a call from Chris Davis this week, one of our brokers and an active investor who found a property in our area where he said he was tipped off by someone else he knew that the guy hasn't lived in the house in over 2 years, and he basically comes there and cuts the grass and takes care of the snow and does some exterior maintenance every now and then. But he's like, can you help me find this guy? I said, absolutely. We'll help hunt this guy down. That is driving for dollars. That could end up in a transaction where you're going to make some money. Another thing you could do is, and this is something that I've personally done, is you can door knock. As you're driving for dollars, stop. Talk to the neighbor. Knock on the door. Ask them if they know what's going on with the property. Hey, Mr. Smith, I'm in the neighborhood, and I'm an investor. I'm looking to pick up more properties in this area. I see your next door neighbor. The house looks like the grass. There's a tree down in the front yard. There's no tracks in the snow or whatever. Grass is long. What's going on with that house? Oh yeah, that's Jimmy. He lived there for a couple years, and I think he had a job transfer. But I know he doesn't live here anymore. I mean, I've been cutting the grass every now and then because it gets really long. But I don't have all the time in the world to cut his grass for him. well, then you need to hunt that person down. That's door knocking can result in that. Door knocking can just be door knocking off of like the pre-foreclosure list. A little more uncomfortable probably when you're actually facing somebody in foreclosure who answers the door, but you're not going to know if there's any success for you in that realm unless you try. I would recommend that as part of your marketing plan. Check out for sale by owners. Again, this can be tied to driving for dollars. Write down their phone numbers and their address and anything else you notice about the property. And I say that because I know at one point I was in like a little door knocking session with two other investors, and we came across a moving truck in a driveway, a for sale by owner sign in the yard. And we stopped by, talked to the occupant who happened to be a tenant who was moving out. And the tenant's like, actually, I think the landlord is going to sell the property. That's why he put the sign out last week. I said, okay. So we gave him a call, talked to him on the phone, and he was, in fact, ready to sell. He was actually pretty negotiable on the price. Now, in the end, we didn't acquire that property, but it was a lead just off of driving around, seeing something, and calling on a for sale by owner. Give it a shot. You won't know unless you try. Another aspect you could look at is Craigslist ads or newspaper ads, whether it's a We Buy Houses or We Have Houses or whatever. You can run ads that way. Low cost, hopefully, depending on, Craigslist free, newspaper ads more expensive. So at what point in your business do you move it into newspaper ads? I know that's something that I've been considering with our wholesale business here, is actually placing ads in the paper, now that we're at that level. What else can you do? Talk to more investors. That starts with networking, but that can also be just setting up meetings, reaching out to people, going on Craigslist and finding other investors, because trust me, they're running ads on there. Talk to them, whether they're in a beginning state or a more experienced state. Maybe they can fit into your business. Maybe they're a potential bird dog. Maybe there's somebody that just is really good at doing that front-end work, like what we just talked about, driving for dollars or whatever, and they can't execute because they don't have the cash. Maybe you're a middleman in a deal like that. Maybe you know somebody who's interested in pursuing more property and has the money, and maybe you act as a guy in the middle or a gal in the middle in order to facilitate that transaction. I mean, that can literally be cost-free by making some phone calls off Craigslist. This list so far is going to probably take more than an hour. Another thing you can do is sticky notes, Post-it notes. I know there's a couple companies out there that'll print custom Post-it notes. They're relatively low cost. They stick great to glass doors, front doors. Hey, I'm interested in your house. Call me. Boom. Walk a neighborhood, canvass a neighborhood, and that goes the same with a door hanger or even door knocking. I mean, maybe you do your door knocking campaign on a block one day. You spend a half hour doing that as your hour of your day doing marketing. And if the door doesn't get answered, you leave a Post-it note on the door. Okay, we're going to continue with your hour of marketing. Look online at what everyone else is up to. Look at what your competitors are doing. Research, evaluate, find out what's going on in the Google world so you can see if there's, and make note of it. There's an investor I met with last year who had literally quit his job, and he'll know who he is when he hears this, Mark. He quit his job, and he's like, I'm giving this the full go. I've been kind of teasing with it for the last couple of years. Now I'm ready to start. Everything he does is online, and he's a presence. So I found him while I was searching around one day, looking for investment-related type stuff on Google. Realized it was the same guy that I had already met, and was impressed with the fact that he was covering a large number of, we'll call it zip codes, in the Google AdWords section. And he was looking for motivated sellers. See what everyone else is up to. I'm not saying to mimic it, but if it's working for them, it could potentially work for you. Add that into your plan. You're going to need multiple streams to continue to succeed in investing, whether it's of income or of acquisition strategy. These are all ways you can add this to your marketing for your business. And don't forget about having exit strategies as well. You're going to need buyers. You're going to need sellers, which is what we've mainly been discussing, but all these same principles can apply if you're looking for buyers for a property, whether you're a wholesaler or a buy and hold guy or a fix and flip, whatever. Maybe you start on a project and you find a better one and you can't finish the first one. You need to exit out of something quickly. You need to have buyers lined up, ready to go. I think that'll make sense to you. If you had an opportunity to make $20,000 on a flip and you're about halfway done and you've got some money invested and you've got some time invested, but you find something that's going to bring you in $100,000 and you need to exit out of that first flip because maybe you just don't have enough money to pursue the second one. I mean, do you have somebody you can contact that'll potentially buy that property for you or buy the property you're working on and finish it? I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people probably listening, but I don't see that as a strategy that should be excluded. I mean, that should be an option. Maybe you need a bailout. Doesn't mean you're going to lose money on it. Hopefully you make some money on the deal. But the point is you have a second deal lined up where you make more money. Here's another piece for marketing. Facebook. I said online, but Google AdWords, but Facebook. Even in any capacity, whether you're marketing for buyers or sellers. I was just literally looking at my phone. Well, I took a little 1-second break here, and I just got a Facebook. I noticed on my Facebook there was a post from a wholesaler who's got a property in the area for about $250,000 with an ARV of $900. Now, I didn't look too closely at it. That seems pretty extreme. But there's a lot of groups and networks that you can be a part of on Facebook, and that is all free. Amazingly enough, I just wholesaled a deal with Dan Clarton like a week ago. It was found on Facebook. The seller literally sold his property through Facebook, and it was exactly what I had previously described, which is kind of weird. But he he bought this house. He put a bunch of money and work into it. And then he met his new wife and didn't want it anymore. Bailed out quickly. That's how that stuff can happen, and Facebook is free. So do not forget about that one. All right, so again, we reviewed a bunch of ways that almost all of are very low cost or free that you can market your business. And this can apply to I'm a power washer now, or I'm a car detailer. Whatever it is that you're doing, all these methods can work. Maybe you're not going to go door knocking, but maybe you are. If you're power washing a house and the next door neighbor's house is just as dirty, go knock on the door. I mean, these are ways that you can achieve business. I was with a roofer a couple months back looking at a property that I was considering purchasing, and the roofer noticed that the house next door the roof was shot. He had no hesitation, literally, to go next door. He had a flyer in his truck and posted it, in between the door and the screen door or whatever, and because nobody was home, but he tried knocking first. I mean, that's the way you got to think. So now we're kind of at midday, right? Maybe you're hungry, maybe you're not. Now is an opportunity to go out and eat lunch, maybe take a little break, reevaluate what you've accomplished so far, plan a little bit more for your day. Maybe something changes. That's how my day goes a lot, is all of a sudden it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, like it is right now today on Friday. And somebody throws me a curveball like, hey, let's go look at a property. That's actually a great point. I got a text message last night from one of our brokers and goes, hey, did you see that property down the street? That's actually an 8-unit. Used to be it's this historic house, one of the first houses built in this area. And it's huge. It's like 4,000, 5,000 square feet. It's been turned into an 8-unit building. And he's like, why don't we go look at it? And I'm like, yeah, why not? I didn't consider it, but when I ran the numbers, I realized that it actually cash flowed a decent amount of money. I thought, well, who wants a single family that's converted into 8 units? I mean, how many doors is that? I mean, yeah, it's 8 doors. I get it. But, is that really going to work effectively and efficiently as a multifamily? No, I don't. But I won't know. I'm not going to know that answer unless I go look at it. All I know is it does cash flow, which is a property I saw it come up on the MLS like 2 weeks ago, and I didn't even think about it. I'm like, not really my thing, but I'm going to go look at it because you never know. So eat your lunch, maybe meet with somebody in that process, set up a lunch, maybe 1 a week, 2 a week, whether it's personal reflection because you're alone sitting at Starbucks eating a muffin, reading a book for an hour, or, actually meeting somebody for lunch at Portillo's for their cheesy beef on garlic, which is awesome. All right, so eat your lunch. Now you're over halfway through the day. The next hour is upon us. What have you accomplished the first part of the day that you need to follow up on? If you were on Facebook and you found a couple leads, maybe this part of your day is going to be spent for an hour following up on those opportunities you have found, or those marketing strategies that you want to pursue, or the phone call you got from the Post-it note you put on the door yesterday. Follow up on your leads. That can be done at any point during the day. I'm just putting it at the end, the latter half. Maybe that's your 9 a.m. thing because you want to be the first guy at the door to go buy this property. Then do it at 9 a.m. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Again, brokers out there who are listening, a huge component of the business that nobody talks about is like that whole do not call list, cold calling thing. Like if you've got previous clients that you've worked with because you've done some business with them, follow up, recontact. If you've done 10 deals in the last year, part of that plan for success in 2017 should be to follow up with those previous contacts. They don't necessarily want to sell right away or buy another house right away, even though they might. They might know somebody who does, though, and you know who they're going to remember if you follow up with them once a month is you. Or you call one of those guys or gals once a week, and that leads to once every quarter. However you set up your plan, get back to these people, because then the first person they're going to think of when they want to hire a broker or a seller wants to contact an investor to sell their house is the person who's been repetitively annoying them to some degree. Be polite about it, be businesslike about it, but there's nothing wrong with asking the question of, hey, how's the house? Everything good? Yeah, we had a pipe break last week. I don't know if I really want to deal with this anymore. Oh, so you think you might be interested in selling today because you weren't the other day when I talked to you a month ago? Maybe you're right. Maybe I should just sell this thing. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Do that for at least an hour per day. The later part of the day, now we're at 3 o'clock for a 9 to 5 investor lifer. Take that to analyze opportunities that you want to see the next day. Whether it's MLS feeds you're getting from your brokers that you met with for coffee at 10 a.m. this morning, or the follow-ups you just made from your motivated sellers or potential business partners. Plan that part to make some money, or line up a way to make money for your next morning at 9 a.m. So for me, it's looking at properties. Typically, the first thing I do in the day is look at properties, and a lot of times the latter half of the day, after I'm done analyzing something at 3:30 in the afternoon, I still have some time left if I'm going to work my 8-hour day. I'm going to go run out and look at properties. Or if something hits the market in that process, or that throughout the day, if something hits the market in any capacity, I might go run out and see it right then and there, or plan it for the first thing the next morning. Next step. Meetup, networking, REI investment meetings. Plan on attending some type of event. If you can do once a week, good for you. I'm hosting and attending typically 2 to 3, sometimes 4 meetups per month. I wouldn't say I attend one a week because my schedule just doesn't adhere to that type of lifestyle at this point, but definitely a handful per month I am in the presence of, whether it's my own meetup or somebody else's. So I went to this meetup the other night that I referenced earlier. I made a bunch of contacts. I'm going to take those contacts at this point in the day. This is your post-analyzation part. You've already said, okay, tomorrow I'm going to look at 3 properties in the morning with Joe Mueller from Tanis Group, or I'm going to go meet this wholesaler who's selling a good deal. Now we're at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Plan that, plan what you're doing and how you're going to be growing that network for at least, if you can apply only 15 to 30 minutes of this on a daily basis, that can really exponentially grow your business. I cannot say that enough, and I cannot believe how much I say it. But I was even presented with a deal at this meetup the other night that I didn't even know was a deal until after I gave the guy a chance to, really explain things, because he presented himself by saying, hey, I heard you talk about private money when you're on the stage, because I was on that collective flipping panel. He's like, I need private money. Can you help me get some? And I said, well, that there you go. It's a whole other podcast. But, it doesn't always work that way, dude. Like, there's people in that room. There's 100 people who attended that meetup who are attentively listening to what these 4 individuals, including myself, had to say about flipping properties. Someone in that room, more than one person in that room, has the means and the funding available to do deals. You might not be able to take something down on your own by getting a private lender at some extraordinary rate of 7% and, have have him or her pay for the acquisition and the rehab costs and make, a ton of money on it. But you do have the ability to network yourself and, grow your contacts for that possibility from other people in the room and growing partnerships. We talked about doing that earlier on the day, like your partnership growing time, we'll call it, whether that be your attorneys or private lenders. Maybe that's other investors that you say, hey, I might have an opportunity. I met you at the meetup last week. I know you don't really know me that well, but let me just run it by you and you can tell me what you think. So back to my story, this guy, he's like, hey, can you help me find private money? I said, hey, that's a process. It doesn't happen overnight, but you had a ton of people in that room that could potentially do that with you. How come you're not talking to them? He's like, well, I was impressed by your thing. I want to talk to you. I said, well, okay, well, what do you got? Well, what's the situation? He's like, yeah, I found this great deal in a great area of Illinois. My acquisition price is $70,000. And I knew right off the bat, I'm like, oh boy, that's a good price for that area. And he's like, yeah, it's got an ARV probably around 225 or so. It probably needs 30 grand worth of work. And I said, now, hold on a second. I said, now, see, that is a lot different than you coming up to me and saying, help me get private money. You told me about the deal and the opportunity, and that changed the whole dynamic of that conversation. Now, unfortunately, because he didn't have private money or a partner at the time, he lost the deal because he couldn't execute on the contract the way he said he would. But that was a great opportunity. If he would have had, I told him, I said, next time that happens, you call me. And I said, yeah, I'm not going to fund you on it, but I'll partner on it with you. We'll make the deal happen. He says, okay, great. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm like, okay. So all those things can happen through meetups. Use those opportunities. Use your day to plan how you can attend those meetups. And when you're attending those things, I get it. Like, a lot of people want to be a fly on the wall. I know in the last podcast we were talking about contractors, and I said something like, speak, say something, tell people what you're doing, tell them who you're looking for. Yeah, that applies with investing in general as well. If this individual would have been at a meetup 2 weeks earlier and had talked to 10 or 15 people about that shit, all he had to do was talk to one, and that was me. But it only takes one to do that deal. And collect these business cards, follow up with those people as part of your follow-up hour in the day, and keep in touch. It doesn't mean you call them every day of the week. But it does mean that maybe every couple of weeks you're reaching out, you're sending a text message, you're creating a touch, what they call it in marketing. You're touching somebody. Email, phone call, text messages, whatever. Get a hold of them. Let them know you're out there. That happens the same thing with me as a broker. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The number one question I get when I meet people is, find me a deal. Yeah, and it just doesn't work that way. I don't know you. I don't know what you're looking for. There's a lot that needs to go into stuff like that. But at the same time, if you are attending a meetup and you have an opportunity or you're looking for one, pre-plan how that's going to work for you during that last hour of the day. Maybe you're going to put together a PowerPoint presentation on a particular property and you're going to throw it on a thumb drive, or even better, do it on Dropbox or Google Drive. I literally have converted 99% of my own personal investing onto a MacBook Air, Google Drive, and Dropbox. It's very simple. I love the Mac. I know everybody loves PCs still. I'm not. I was a PC guy for my entire life until about 4 or 5 years ago. And I only got the MacBook because I thought, this thing looks pretty cool. I want to know what the hype is. And I had an iPhone at the time. So it kind of made sense. I've converted everything onto the MacBook. It only has 250 gigs, and I'm still able to continue to, it runs like a smooth, well-oiled machine. It doesn't crash. This thing is amazing. But that's enough Apple press for the day. Point is, I can create a presentation on the MacBook. I can save it in Dropbox, or even better, Google Drive works very well with photos. And I can stand there with somebody at a meetup and show them an opportunity literally off my phone, or give them a link so they can view it on their own device or their own phone. That's all things you can do at the end of the day, and prepare for those mini networking presentations on whatever you got going on in the world. If you're selling widgets, then put together your widget presentation, or at least have something you want to say planned, and maybe that's how it starts. I get it, not everybody wants to stand up in front of the room, but maybe you run into somebody who approaches you and says, so what do you do? Have something. Well, yeah, I'm just getting started, or I've got 20 properties and I'm trying to find more. Have something that you can introduce yourself with when people approach you or you approach them. So we kind of burn through quickly on how to run your business like a business. I want to hit the main point home is you have to consider it a business. I don't care if you only have 2 hours a day or 2 hours a week. Effectively plan what you're going to be doing for those hours so you can accomplish something and continue to grow and succeed. Schedule them in 15-minute increments. I don't care. If you did something every 15 minutes, whether it's one follow-up phone call or 15 minutes on Craigslist or 15 minutes looking at properties on Zillow, whatever it is, that's going to help grow your business. So that's why I wanted to make this a part one, because there's so much that we can talk about. I have so many notes down on how to effectively run your business like a business, and I wanted to give a quick overview. I think next time maybe we're going to dive into a little more detail on what's out there and how businesses should be set up, at least in my opinion. We'll talk a little bit more about negotiations, contract, finances, maybe a little bit more on private money and hard money lending. But I tell you, the worst thing in the world as an investor is when you spend a ton of time trying to find a deal and then you can't execute on the deal because you don't have the funding in place or the entity structure in place, or you don't have the buyer to sell it to if you're a wholesaler. Those are all things you need to set up in advance. So hopefully you got something out of this. Like I said earlier, please review me on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google+, whatever. If you have more ideas, please bring them to my attention. You can email me at joe@tannisgroupllc.com, joe@tannisgroupllc.com. All right, you guys have a great day.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Investor Empowerment Series radio show. Be sure to tune in next week for another empowering episode. We welcome your feedback, so please rate us on iTunes and Stitcher, and visit us at www.investoремpowermentchicago.com or tannisgrouprealty.com.